Hello, this is old Mr. Kent of MrKent.com, and the scenery's a little bit different, taking off here out at my son's place where we have moved, because there's a new toy sitting right there. Yeah, he moved into this place February of 2020, and then this is in October, early October, but as soon as he moved in, he could see there was a need for a tractor. But of course, being able to afford a tractor, especially, if you're going to be using it every day, that's one thing. But in a situation like this, a tractor sits around 99% of the time and doesn't get used. But when you need it, it's there. And so he's been wanting a tractor and wanting a tractor and wanting a tractor. And so finally, over this past weekend, he was able to pick one up. It looks new. It's actually refurbished with all new hoses, and it works great. As you can see, well, we'll take a look at that, but he leveled out the corral there where the donkey's standing and got that all leveled out. And he had all kinds of things that he's planning to do, and he didn't get all of them done. But anyway, the first thing he did was to level out that corral. And then we're going to come around here and show you one of the things that was really important, what he did. And I will get to the story that I'm going to be telling you on this video. And look, that's right. Now I'm going to turn around and let you take a better look at the corral. But believe it or not, when I was flying my Cessna 170, in 1992, I quit my job in broadcasting and went to work for a Christian boarding school for troubled teenage boys. And it was an experience. But some folks moved up from California, and they needed a place to. Now you got a better look at the little corral. But they needed a place, and it just so happened that about 40 miles north of Pasco, there's a little town called Othello, and in Othello, just south of Othello, there's a hill. It's called Radar Hill now. And the reason is because there was a radar base set up there, which was in operation during the Cold War. It started operations in 1951, and then it was closed down, and I guess you could call it abandoned, in 1975. So it was there, and of course the radar base could detect incoming aircraft and so forth. And so here's I got a couple pictures off of the internet here, and there's the guardhouse. Oh, by the way, there's the two little goats that we also picked up over the weekend. So now they have 4 goats in their little corral. But anyway, so I moved up to the radar base where they were setting up operations, because in 1975 it was sold to a private party, and that person allowed the boarding school to make use of all of the things that were available there. Now, as we come around here, that dirt that's mounded up there around that tree, he brought in a load of dirt and then mounted it up around that tree. And the reason for that is because later in the video I'll point out that they do flood irrigation here because the land is so flat. But that one area there didn't keep the flood in, and so it kept running out onto the driveway and messing things up. But anyway, back to the radar base. So the radar base on top of the hill had those radomes, and it had. And by the way, I think this picture here is looking up because it was the base was built on a slant up towards the top of the hill, and that's looking up the main street there on a snowy day. But not only was the radar base there, but also out in the surrounding area, mostly to the west of the radar base, were a bunch of Nike missile silos. And I was able to find one that showed that was still left, and the little circle there was where there was a silo that was, I imagine, 100 feet or so deep, and a Nike missile was lowered in there. And then there were some buildings around there too for maintenance and so forth. But that was connected directly to the radar base. And there was a building on that radar base that was double thickness. The inner building was concrete, and that's where the controls were in order to launch a missile if necessary. And the whole building was on springs, so if there was an earthquake or something, it would withstand it. And then the outer building was like a protective building that, if somebody was shooting guns or something, or I don't know. But anyway, it protected the inner building, and it was kind of fun to go in there with a flashlight when we were there, because there was in the inner building there was all kinds of places where you could see where they had these big plastic maps where they would map things out. And I also found a bezel from an old computer, and I wish I still had it. I don't know whatever happened to it, but that bezel had all kinds of labels on them. One of the labels was launch, so that's where they would have launched a missile if there had been a need for an incoming missile. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm going to turn around the corner here, and we're going to look for this. In my last video, as I was coming in to land, there was some smoke coming up from where somebody was burning their trash or whatever it was they were burning, and so I wanted to figure out where's that at. So I'm flying over here to check out where I think it is from watching that other video. So anyway, it's probably down right here on the lower right. It looks like that's where on the other side of that little building, that's where the smoke was coming from. Well, anyway, so that picture that I took as I was flying over, you can see that it's not the whole base, but you can see where there's roads across the road that went up behind those buildings and those radomes, and that far left radome, we had to remove it in order to be able to put in an airstrip, and so we tipped it over with a tractor. And then you can see in this next picture where it's the layout from 1996, just the year after we left, because the guy was he wouldn't obey the codes in the county, and so the county closed us down. But there's a spot right down through there where you can see where the path that I put the airstrip in. And then in this next shot, you can see that line shows you where the airstrip was, and the length was about 1,300 feet. And that's kind of short for a Cessna, but remember, that's downhill from the left to the right, it's downhill, and it had quite a slant. And so in the next picture, well, what happened was this heavy equipment company, they had a 9-yard loader up there that they stored up there, and they also had a huge track hoe. And I was allowed to use those, and I had a lot of fun with both of them. But the 9-yard loader I used to carry there on the far west end of the base, they had a berm about 15 feet high, and it was a shooting range, and so that's where they shot into. Well, I used that 9-yard loader to haul dirt from the berm all the way across the campus over to where I needed to fill in for where there were little driveways and so forth across the. Oh, by the way, I missed it, but you can see that I was going to show you where they flood irrigate, because we just flew over one. But anyway, the one on the right, that's water for the sprinkler trucks in the construction. So I missed telling you that, but it's so flat here that you can just flood your lawn, and that's how they irrigate. Well, anyway, so I made several trips for several days, filling up the crossways and making a nice smooth road. And one of the things that I did with the 9-yard loader is when the boys were out, there was teenage boys, and we had quite a few. Actually, we had up to 160 at one time before they closed it down. But they would be out playing, and I would come down the hill with a load of dirt and a 9-yard loader, and I would slam the brakes on, and that would bring the tail up, and the bucket would go down to the ground. But I wouldn't do anything. I just let the tail go up, so I'd be hanging up there, and then I would slowly lower it down, and they loved to see me do that. But anyway, so that was one of the things I did. Well, so I kept working back and forth, and I got it pretty well smoothed out. And so you can see in this picture, this is looking from the top where you would take off, because you always take off downhill and you land uphill. And so that's where you would take off. And then this next picture is looking up from where you would where the end of the runway. If you haven't taken off by the time you get there, you're in big trouble. But anyway, that's where you would take off. So this next picture is probably the first takeoff that I made, and as you can see, there's a slant there, and I'm already off the ground halfway down. So it worked out pretty good. And so I had my own airstrip, and here's a shot, a couple of shots of coming into land, and you can see you can just see up the runway. I had to land between buildings, but it worked out okay. And then this is actually touching down. And by the way, the interesting thing was, with a tail dragger, you have to really pull the nose up or you'll bounce all over the place when you land uphill. And if you're a tail dragger pilot, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So anyway, then up the top of the hill, I also set up a place where I could park the plane. And I had to put a little fake owl on the cowling, because the birds kept coming around and wanting to build nests inside the engine. They'd go in the little cooling vents and build nests. So anyway, here I come around now. I'm going to land, and that's how I made my own airstrip, and it worked great until the county closed us down, and so I had to find another job, and I moved up to Spokane and took a job teaching in a computer school. So that's my story, and I want to thank you for watching and listening. And my son's very happy with his new tractor, by the way. So anyway, I want to thank you for watching, and God bless.